welcome to You Ain't Black. And Joe Biden looks like you can't step.
You ain't black.
And you ain't black.
We had to do that. Nothing again.
Wow, we had to get him though.
It was all right. It was a great intro, man. Great intro.
Look, understand this, y'all. Candace Owens is about to be the CEO of WAP.
Of WAP.
Yeah, WAP, baby. It's about to go down.
It's a WAP takeover.
I thought it was over and done with. I thought she actually. First, I thought she buried her. Okay.
I thought she learned her lesson. Yeah.
I thought it was a funeral.
Yeah,
I saw a funeral last time.
And
then
So
when
she came back from the dead.
Yeah, and I was like, round two, she's back from the dead. I feel like it's Walking Dead in here, you know. People are rising. So, what happened exactly? Because I know you guys know, but it's just the illustration of what's going on, the back and forth.
Yeah.
And she made a good point. Why does she keep tweeting this stuff at night?
Well, try to get it before before people go to sleep or when they wake up. That's the first thing they see. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, she might be having a good time at night,
Yeah,
with a few drinks, and wanting to.
She's probably on OnlyFans at the same time. Multitasking. So hey,
but you can't slander someone in this day and age, especially someone like Candace Owens, especially someone who just bodied you prior, okay? You can't slander somebody and try to call out their husband and their brother and try to say they're in some type of, lewd acts and whatnot, make up a fake tweet and all this type of foolishness and expect no type of recourse.
And she deleted it right away, too. That's how you know it's bad now. That's how what did she say? She said, too late, degenerate. I was like, oh my goodness.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Here we go.
And I'm pretty sure it was somebody on Cardi's team that advised her, you might want to take that down. Cardi isn't even smart enough to realize that she should have taken it down, right? I'm pretty sure a lawyer told her.
This isn't the first time she took something down. This isn't the first time she took something down.
Right, exactly.
It won't be the last either. Come on now.
Well, and then also, I mean, she was making some very specific and intense allegations of legality here. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'd want to go up against Candace Owens because,
that's not a good idea.
I mean, you joke. She may not be as popular as well known, but we're talking about a serious legal team.
Oh
here,
yeah,
dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is not.
We're talking about
brutal, dude.
litigation against Facebook. Come on, and then this is what you're gonna go up
if you're
against
taking on Facebook, Cardi B is lightweight. I mean, come on, think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, and she wants to talk about how she gets mad at paying high taxes. Well, imagine your bill. Imagine your legal bill.
Whoa.
Well, you're not supposed to take on okay, look, don't punch above your weight.
Right.
And clearly, Candace Owens is an intellectual behemoth when it comes to Cardi B. When it comes to most people, but especially when it comes to the likes of Cardi B, you better believe this is. I can't wait to see this unfold.
So you're saying
What you tell her? Stay in her weight class.
I want to get on top of that. So
you don't put a flyweight up with a heavyweight.
Right? Come on, a featherweight against a.
Her beef needs to be with someone like a rap battle with Megan Thee Stallion rather than
That's more her level.
Yeah, that's more of her level.
More her
got
level.
it. Got it.
Yeah.
So how about you stop doing collaborations with Megan Thee Stallion if you want to fight somebody?
Yes.
That's the person you need to talk to.
Yes, indeed.
See, but Candace Owens actually made a really good point, right? She made a really good point saying that the reason why she believes Cardi B is so bothered by Candace calling her out is because she knows that when she goes to bed at night, she knows that what she's doing is like morally corrupt, morally wrong.
No, I don't know if we could pull this up on the fly. I should have done that. There's actual video when she's playing her own song.
Right, and then
as soon as her daughter walks in or a child,
stops it. Right?
She stops it right away.
Yeah,
I mean, that just shows it to you right there. I mean, it's all over the internet on that one. So I saw that and I'm like, okay, well, there's video proof of what she's talking about. What Candace Owens is claiming, we've seen it.
Yeah.
When you can do something disgusting like that, and your child walks in, you got to hurry up and try to
your own song.
You shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, you shouldn't be doing it.
You know exactly.
I get it if it's someone else's song,
right?
But dude, actually, there's an article on this. You asked about pulling it up on the fly, and I usually don't like doing that. But it's Elle magazine, and they totally tell the truth all the time. You know what I'm saying? But look at this. Cardi B defends her decision to stop daughter Culture, spelled with a K, which I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
I don't
so
care
hip.
what you think about WAP. That's a cool name.
Culture.
That's so trendy.
Culture is
to
cool.
stop daughter from listening to WAP. So right there, I don't make music for kids. I make music for for adults, and then she stops her own daughter from.
Well, she gets respect for that. At least she has enough sense to not let her daughter be.
It's hypocritical though. Yeah. I mean, like
you're doing something so morally reprehensible, but yet and still you're going to propagate this on a consistent basis, and then you're going to try to go after someone who's actually a moral person. Candace Owens, she's a moral person who's able to sleep at night, due to what she's doing for society and what she's doing for the culture. But
That's
here we got another person here. You got freaking Cardi B, who's tearing down the culture, is denigrating the culture, denigrating women, denigrating herself, and
her daughter,
or maybe we should all be grateful.
well, see, my
because
thing
if
is,
these prudes were all walking around and conservatives ran Hollywood, there would never be nothing scandalous ever done.
No, but Cardon, but that's the point, right? My thing is there's a time and place for everything. No one is saying, at least I think no one is saying that artists shouldn't be able to make a song like that, but it should be relegated to a certain audience. It shouldn't be played during the Grammys, right? I mean,
you don't need to be grinding that WAP on the Grammys too.
They simulated lesbian sex right on a sofa, on a satin sheet.
Here's the argument. Here's the argument too. Is that okay? Well, I make it for not for kids, right? Okay, but you're on a stage and it's on television where kids can see it.
What's your excuse?
Because the thing is, the Grammys are meant to be just as much a cultural celebration for us as viewers and as the other members of the society as it is a celebration for the actual individual artists. So when you do it at a place like the Grammys, it's denigrating to the culture. When you do it on a place like VH1 that requires a subscription from a credit card where you have to be at least 18, that's totally different. And this is the argument that most conservatives have that is the biggest problem. We don't care what transgender people want to do to their bodies after they're 18 and they're their own adults. In fact, most conservatives are pretty laissez-faire. They're like almost libertarian, like, dude, you do you, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We care about what is forced upon children. We don't care about WAP existing. 100%. And to a certain extent, many of us feel that we're falling into a marketing trap by even talking about it.
Facts.
But we do have a problem when it's put up on a pedestal like the Grammys for something that our children, we usually tell them, you should aspire to be a Grammy award-winning artist. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And if you want to be a musician, you should train hard enough to earn or win a Grammy. And then all of a sudden, it's simulated lesbian sex, and it's like, don't know if I'm telling crazy that.
Right, it's crazy.
And the argument is that, oh well, I don't do it for the kids. Well, I mean, there's half of America that are women, that are girls, that are growing up. They watch BET and they look up to Cardi. You know what I mean? And then, like Candace said, it's a culture thing. It's a culture thing.
It's part of the agenda, though, too, right? Really because when you think about it, the owners of MTV, which is Viacom, and all the powers that be, that had to go through checks and balances to get allowed to be performed at the song. To be performed at the stage.
You got it.
And it was accepted. So that just goes to show
it wasn't accepted. They probably went through the ranks and was like, I needed more.
I needed more.
And it was like, what's more than more? Just get on there and just grind.
Yeah, do everything.
Or also, maybe I kind of feel bad for the situation that a lot of these executives are in, because could you imagine if they didn't play WAP?
Right.
I mean, if they came out and they said, we feel this is inappropriate. That's white Christian nationalism. You know what I'm saying? So now these executives are in a really bad position where 10 years ago they might say, great song, it's got a cool beat. Even at church dances, I'm actually amazed at how many of these like supposedly proper Christian girls,
they know gosh,
you put on WAP and say, there's some hoes in the house, there's some hoes. And all the chicks start acting
it's going
so
down.
Boring.
Yes.
It's like, don't you ever complain if you're disrespected like a man after I just saw what dance you just did. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't you ever complain. So these executives, I actually feel bad for them, because if they actually take the high road and say, look, this is too edgy for kids during prime time, they're literally called white supremacists, white Christian nationalists, and say, well, why is it appropriate for children? What shouldn't if we're saying children can choose their gender by 8 years old, who's not to say that they shouldn't be having simulated lesbian sex in bikinis during mainstream? It's absolute insanity. So what do? They throw up their hands and say, okay, fine. The clowns have taken over the insane asylum. We're going to play W.A.P. Why? And they defer to they call it capitalist argument, but they defer to the argument that, well, it was the #1 song, so we have to. No, you don't.
You don't have to.
You don't.
No, you do not.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
At least not in prime time during the FCC. Because let me tell you, there's certain words as a radio host that I cannot use or I will lose my job no matter what before 10 a.m.
Let's go.
I'm sorry, before 10 p.m.
Yeah.
It's just that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, moving on.
Crazy. So what do you guys think about, well, first of all, how many people out there got stimulated with their stimmy checks?
I love it.
You know, hey, a lot of people woke up happy on Monday and Tuesday when they had that extra 14.
And, you know, we got to remember, you know, when it comes to conservative values, we don't want handouts. You know,
Right.
we don't
That's
want
true.
handouts.
Right.
It's something that, you know, we want to go out and make it on our own.
But at the same time, a lot of people feel that this is not a handout when we as American citizens have been obstructed from making a living for about 8 months now, right? So this is kind of...
And that's a good argument, too, because, again...
Ben Shapiro made this a statement. He said that it's like the government crashing a truck into your house. Okay? You expect compensation.
Thank you.
You expect to be compensated if someone's going to crash their truck into your house, and now you have this big gaping hole in your house. Now what? Am I just supposed to just live like this? No, I need to be compensated so I can take care of this.
And you know, I think it's important to put into perspective too that a lot of people are actually giving Joe Biden credit. What's funny is my little brother in Chicago. He texted me. He was like, He was like, actually, Sleepy Joe is on a roll. He got the STEMI checks going. He did something with about student loan forgiveness. I was like, come on, bro. I was like, okay. Trump was the one, right, who wanted to give the American citizens $2,000 like 6 months ago. Yeah. Pelosi played politics with the stimulus checks and waited till after the election.
Dude, Raphael Warnock is elected now because they promised $2,000 if you elect Democrats.
A lot of them did.
A lot of them did.
A lot of them promised it too. That was the catching point. Yeah. It's the same argument too. Is also because I had an argument with or a conversation with someone that said, you know what? Well, Trump, he's big government. I said, how is he big government? He's lowering taxes. He goes, he bailed out the airline industry and da-da-da. And I said, yeah.
The airline industry had to.
I was like, yeah, because they shut down the economy.
Come on.
Well, I think the example, well, first off, Trump was big government. This is a big pill that Republicans need to swallow. But the omnibus bill passed underneath Donald Trump was the single largest spending bill in American history up until this COVID bill, basically.
And it can go back and forth on every single topic. If we go to certain topics, there's some things that you do big government-wise. There's a lot of things that he's done by slashing taxes and being competitive on the world stage. That's lower taxes. So,
So either way, the point is, I don't know, like, I will disagree with Ben Shapiro that I don't think it's the analogy of a truck crashing into your house. I think is good. But to me, this is more like they enlisted us in a war. Now, it might have been a dogmatic religious war against a fake Satan that, you know, it was not half of what they said it was.
A fake enemy,
But
really.
by you being told to stay at home, you were effectively drafted into what could be almost considered a pseudo-military effort. Yeah. So I look at it more as combat pay when you're forced to be a U.S.
That's
soldier.
a really good. I like that. Combat pay.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you're drafted to stay home.
We were all
government
forced to.
Yeah.
Like, if we went to war with China, people don't realize this, but there's so many citizens in China that if we were able, we don't have enough bullets to kill their citizens. If they actually did a full land invasion, we literally don't have enough bullets. We would rely on thermonuclear weaponry just to stop their land infantry. All right, that's
unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's
how many people.
It's like
have.
a million man
Oh,
army.
yeah, it's crazy.
Like
they have so many people that if they started walking into the ocean as we were shooting them, like in World War I, their bodies would stack up so high that they could walk over each other and create a land bridge that crossed the Pacific.
Wow.
Like, that's how many people
Hold on. How in the world do you know that?
I was about to say, how many bodies does it take to build a bridge?
Did you Google that? Did you Google that? What
That's
did
like
you
a
Google
trivia
to find
Snapple
out?
Well,
question.
you know, the average size body of somebody is only so long. There's only so many feet per mile. How many miles is it from Beijing to the Pacific? Like Los Angeles. You quickly do these calculations. These are all just. I read a lot of military history. All right. Anyway, at the end of the day.
Okay.
So what people don't realize is at the end of the day, if we were to go to war with China, we would forcibly be drafted because we don't have a large enough standing army. Yeah. But we don't give $1 million to a millionaire if he's drafted. we give you standard combat pay according to your rank.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That was our combat
rank in this war was basically how many kids you had. And it's an
what
unfair...
president. And what president.
And what president.
Yeah, exactly.
But Card, now, okay, since it got into the how many kids, right? Let's get into the murder. The
What, are you
stimulus
confessing
check.
to having sired other children before the show started? You'd like to make good on your...
The crazy. Let's get into this, right? Indianapolis in Indiana. A man actually murdered 4 people, a whole family, over a stimulus check.
No way.
And here's the situation, right?
Come on now.
The
Dude,
mother
I
of
heard
his
about
kid got the stimulus check. He demanded half of it. She didn't want to give him half. She told him she'll give him $450. He comes over to the house, starts going through her purse. An altercation breaks out. Next thing you know, he pulls out a gun, shoots her daughter, shoots her mother and her cousin. Killed 4 people over $450.
Money's the root of all evil.
The love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, thank you.
Dude, his name is Malik Halfacre. Oh, that's a bad name.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
That's a badass name.
Halfacre. That's
But
not-
dude is a
looked
monster
like-
to be able to do that.
It looked like he was looking for his 40 mules in Anchor. Or,
Yeah.
he said in the mule.
mean-
Yeah. Sorry, I said Anchor. I just came to
But
my
to
mind.
get that
Like,
upset
that's
over a
land,
stimulus
right?
check.
Yeah.
He needs his land.
I
Well,
mean,
the thing is,
we
they've
got to
caused-
put it out there too.
They've caused such a desperation.
Oh,
A desperation.
Like the
Yeah.
government has literally caused such a desperation. Did you see
Yeah.
65% of businesses in my town on Yelp are closed permanently?
Yep.
I shouldn't say business, sorry, restaurants. And restaurants are some of the first entry-level positions that you have for anybody coming out of prison,
got
anybody
it.
that's young,
18
anybody
years
that's
old.
trying to start a career is restaurants and service industries, and they've been absolutely decimated.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, this guy's a jerk because he committed a murderous act too. But anybody that studies criminal mental health
it's whatever
understands there's always stressors.
Some type of precursor.
How much of the crime that has been committed in the past 10 months, the stressor was an absolutely absurd government response to COVID-19.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So it's like an erupting volcano, pretty much.
Right.
And this is the boiling point.
And dude, we got to get this under control too, or else other countries, they're just plain old not going to be taking us seriously, dude.
They're not taking us seriously.
Let's speak on
anymore.
it, right?
Yeah.
They're
Break
not.
bread, baby.
Ever
Break
since-
We're the
bread.
laughing stock.
Ever since Biden got into office, we got China disrespecting us. We got Biden, Russia over here playing with Biden, talking about, I'll do a live interview or a live debate with you if you're willing with it. I hope you good health.
Biden won't even do it.
I wish you
But
good health.
Biden won't even do a live debate with the reporter.
Exactly.
So you think he's gonna debate Putin? I mean, come on.
A live? No, you mean a scripted response.
Right.
you.
Go ahead.
If he does not have a teleprompter, he's not going to be able to fare well against any type of debate against anybody.
Yeah, he can't even fare well with a prompt. So let's be real.
Exactly.
Dude, did you see the video of when the Chinese diplomacy basically told America they can no longer speak from a position of strength?
Wow, please play that
Yes.
Dude, yeah, here, let's
Yes.
play
video. Because this was
Yes.
a sad, sad day for America.
Come on now.
so
And you
we'll-
see the hand gestures.
And not to mention, and not to mention tensions between North Korea too. Literally, in the first couple months, he's literally done rising gas prices, and we can get into the border a little later. But I mean, look at this. I mean, at this point,
So here's
We're on the
Secretary
laughing
Blinken.
stock.
Like, let's pull this one up first, actually. I'm going to pull this
Let's
one
run
up
it.
first.
Today, we'll have an opportunity to discuss.
And I'm going to put this on the screen right here so you guys can see.
Yeah.
Here's U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, right? I mean, kind of nice looking diplomat guy. Let's see what he has to say here because he's obviously very concerned and very cordial about what's going on with U.S.-China relations.
Today, we'll have an opportunity to discuss key priorities, both domestic and global, so that China can better understand our administration's intentions and approach. We'll also discuss our deep concerns with actions by China.
Okay, whenever they start saying you'll understand our approach, they basically mean we're about to launch some kind of economic or some kind of military warfare. Deep concerns in the diplomatic world means like we're deeply concerned that you crossed the 38th parallel. Deeply concerned.
it means we got problems.
You know, so these, for lack of a better term, in the diplomatic world, these be fighting words, right? Okay, you know what I'm saying? But this is how his response. This was how his response was met by the Chinese, and I mean, this
Complete
was
disrespect.
bad, dude.
我现在讲一句，你们没有资格在中国的面前说 你们从实力的地位出发同中国谈话。
Okay.
So let me say here that in front of the Chinese side, the United States does not have the qualification to say that it wants to speak to China from a position of strength.
20年前、30年前，你们就没有这个地位讲这话，因为中国人是不吃这一套的。
Now, the U.S. side was not even qualified to say such things even 20 years or 30 years back, because this is not the way to deal with the Chinese people.
如果你们要跟我们好好的。
So, in a nutshell, she basically just said, we don't care about your saber rattling. You are not in a position of strength. And by the way, you'll notice, she says this goes back 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, the relationship between
their
China.
disrespect for us.
Well, what have conservatives been saying for 20 or 30 years? Everybody laughed at Mitt Romney when they said, what's the first thing you would do when you went to the Oval Office? And went over everybody's head. But he said, I would declare China a currency manipulator. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And when he said that our biggest geopolitical geopolitical enemy was Russia, Obama mocked him in the debates and said the 80s called and they want their foreign policy back. So now both predictions from 15 years ago of debates we were listening to when we were in freaking high school have all come true. And now China is straight up not like it's worse to be hated than to be not taken seriously.
Right.
Yeah. No, because you got a lot of people don't understand with the Chinese culture is that you have to talk from a position of strength. When you're actually when Biden caters to China, it's a sign of weakness to China. Yes. It's weakness. Yeah. But if you actually come in with a position of strength and actually, come in and say this is what's going to happen, you walk away, come back, they respect you more. Yeah. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we kind of already know that.
What can we really expect when it comes to a person like Biden? I mean, we had President Trump who came from a position of power, who exuded power and strength. And we've talked about this many times on the show about, just showing power. You got to show that you're powerful. You got to show that you're strong. You got to show that you're resolute and that you're not playing these games anymore. But when you got a person like Joe Biden in office, he's tripping upstairs, who's gaffing every time he freaking speaks, calling Kamala Harris president, and he can't even recognize himself as a president. And when it comes to situations like this, who speak on with this type of inconsistency, when it comes to his speech, yes, you're not going to be taken seriously. You are going to be the laughingstock. They're not going to. They're going to look at you and be like, "You are a clown. You're an absolute clown. Why should I take you seriously?"
Thank you. This is a very sad, disturbing time right now because we're most vulnerable right now. When you look at this on a grand scale level, on a worldwide level, other nations are looking at America right now and see that we're vulnerable for attack. Right. I mean, even if you look at let's put this in perspective, like the animal kingdom, right? The hyenas, the wolves, they always target the weak, right? So if they see that buffalo limping or an old wounded buffalo, that's the first one that's going to get attacked because they're weak. Yep. And right now we look weak.
No, very weak.
Very weak.
And that's the point. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, we now made our decision. We're now moving forward in this. But the way that this ship is running, I don't see how
it's like autopilot. We don't even have a captain.
The man is asleep at the wheel. The man is asleep at the wheel.
Sleep at the wheel, man.
Well, and that's the least to say.
Yeah. Lucas, you know how you always say, I operate in a spiritual realm? You just really caused me a thought on something right now. I've been, he's been popping up in my feed in a couple of podcasts and interviews and everything like that. But this guy, Jack Murphy, right? He wrote a book specifically talking about masculinity. And I find it so interesting that while China's dictator, and let's be honest, that's exactly what he is. While their dictator is literally forcing the youth to take classes
to
on
be more manly.
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Because the culture, they see.
We literally are arguing about, whether or not accidentally saying, I thought Caitlyn Jenner was the best runner in the Olympics is like a satanic, cancelable capital offense, Right. Yeah. And so Jack Murphy brought up a really interesting point. He said, femininity is so important because it is unconditional. Women receive their femininity kind of in a spiritual manner because it is bestowed upon them. Yeah. Once they reach womanhood, it's because they came of age and they became women naturally, whereas masculinity needs to be earned.
Yes.
And that's why so many religions, I think of ancient days, had the male priesthood and there were multiple rites of passage. It just wasn't one thing. It wasn't like, you know, all of a sudden I'm 14 and
Preach.
Yeah, exactly. I'm menstruating now and I can birth children and, you know, I came from a good family, therefore I am woman. It wasn't something that was perceived as physical and bestowed. It was something you had to be earned. And he said something very interesting. He said masculinity is defined by no one else other than other men.
Oh, I like that.
If you are a man and you are doing things that naturally causes other men to follow you, then you are inherently earning your masculine leadership skills.
I like that.
So to a certain extent, I mean, when Maga Hulk grabs a flag, there's something he's doing right enough at these crazy little rallies that guys like Nick and Lucas will cozy up to him and say, hey, I agree with that guy. And to a certain extent, they'll follow him. And then he'll probably follow Nick back when he sees Nick up on a, you know, on a pedestal giving his speech saying, hey, Gavin Newsom's got to go. He's hurting our community. And I represent and identify with my black community. I want to help us, right? So that masculinity is earned. So that's something I find so interesting is that, Lucas, you always say you're operating on a spiritual plane. Well, it's interesting that the culture that is losing is calling masculinity toxic.
Exactly.
While the culture that seems to be winning is actually telling their citizens they need to take classes.
Right. We're going to teach
on masculinity. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just me noticing this. I mean, Bill Maher, look, we'll just play the first 20 seconds of Bill Maher's opening monologue this week.
And finally, new rule, you're not going to win the battle for the 21st century if you are a silly people. And Americans are a silly people. That's the classic phrase from Lawrence of Arabia when Lawrence tells his Bedouin allies that as long as they stay a bunch of squabbling tribes, they will remain a silly people.
By the way, before I continue, can we just say that there should be a new rule in political discourse that if Bill Maher even thinks you're wrong, you're doing something really wrong.
And again, we have to remind ourselves that this is the same guy that said he wants to keep the freeway moving on assisted suicide. And what else did he say?
Suicide.
Nobody's questioning. Nobody's questioning the liberal street cred.
I want people to remember this. And I don't care about a recession or depression as long as we get this man out of office. Referring to Trump.
So here's what he had to say.
Here's what he had to say. Right, twice a day. So we'll give him credit for this one time.
Okay,
he was right.
So this is what he had to say about this.
Well, we're the silly people now. Do you know who doesn't care that there's a stereotype of a Chinese man in a Dr. Seuss book? China.
Thank you.
All 1.4 billion of them could give a crouching tiger flying.
What? We'll stop right there. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Crouching Tiger. I love that movie.
But at the end of the day, if Bill Maher says this, how bad has it gotten?
Yeah, because he pushed
because it's a joke now. It's fodder for comedy. This is going to be in stand-up material now.
Right. The virtue signaling of the left, and let's be real, it's of the left that this virtue signaling is going on. And when it comes to the Biden administration, it's very indicative of where our society is heading. It's becoming overly feminist. It's becoming overly weak. It's becoming, and this we got to speak out against this because this is ridiculous. I'm glad people like Bill Maher is actually taking the time to speak out against this because it needs to be now. Finally.
After the election.
Exactly. But this needs to be said. It really does, and it needs to be adhered to because this is ridiculous.
And you know, there's a reason why China and Russia are pushing for masculinity. Meanwhile, the United States is pushing for how masculinity is toxic. and that kind of goes side to side with, you see that and you go, okay, but this guy Bill, he's the one that pushed for Trump to get out. That was more about getting that indoctrination out of schools and things like that, and was hard on China. But now that he's gone and Biden is soft on China, now all of a sudden, we got the job done. Biden's in office, but now I got to play the good guy still. So
he's playing
something's
good cop,
going
bad
on
cop
with
by
China.
himself.
You know what's going on with China. We all know.
You know
what's going on with China.
a friend of mine told me, an older friend of mine told me something that his father told him about. We were having a discussion about. It's interesting how some of my Democrat friends, once we reveal about our political beliefs, they don't want to be friends anymore. And he told me that his father told him that that's a weakness in that person who can't stand to be around you because of the differences, right? That's bringing out that's a weak person pretty much.
Yes.
So I feel that it's the same way with the Democrats. Like everything that they're doing that we don't agree with, they want to cancel us. That makes them weak. And as a country now that is going towards that, we are looking weaker and weaker and weaker. The fact that you have, I just don't believe that a lot of these grown men, even grown women, believe the agenda, but they're being bullied into going along with this almost. Look at the Chinese man right there, right? Cardon. It says a Chinese man who eats with sticks.
When you said,
how is that racist?
That's not.
Chinese men, Chinese people eat chopsticks. Yes. Every time I go to a Chinese restaurant, I prefer to eat with the chopsticks. I don't even want to eat with a spoon.
I can't do it.
When I eat Chinese or Thai food,
you eat rice with chopsticks.
With chopsticks, yes.
Well, you're not supposed to. That's cultural appropriation. Okay, you need to stop that.
Hey,
Lucas.
Look. Can you teach me how to do that? Because I do not know how to eat out those damn chopsticks.
Me neither.
I can teach a chopstick lesson. Actually, I got a pair of wooden ones that I travel with.
You're definitely racist.
You're such a racist.
You travel with chopsticks?
I have my own personal chopsticks.
He travels with his cultural appropriation. Okay, that's what he does.
Let me guess. They're Gucci of Shanghai.
And they're gold plated. You know it.
That's fantastic.
But we've gotten to the point to where people who are offended by that are weak people.
Yeah,
they're weak.
Well, it's the mob mentality, and when it comes to the mob, you have to adhere to the ideologies of the mob. You're no longer a person, an individual who's with individual. I cannot talk today. Thank you. That thing. You don't have individuality anymore. It's all about the mob, what the mob sphere says. You have to adhere to that, and if you don't adhere to that, then you're going to be canceled. And here we go.
Well, and it's so interesting, and I love that we got on this segue about the spiritual realm, because it really is a war of ideas and philosophies here, because it does inherently become individualism versus collectivism. Like, what is the culture of China? It is collectivist. The #1 basketball coach who would play against North Korean and the Chinese in the state-sponsored matches, he told me, he said, dude, there's a complete and total different mentality. He says, when you go over there and you get in a taxi and you talk to the taxi driver, he knows that he is Chinese. His job is to help build the grandeur of what is the Chinese empire. And his little slice of that pie is part of a great and noble cause that is the great, the great Chinese cause, right? And he says, whereas here we're so individualistic, right? Now there's pros and cons to it. If you study Olympics, for example, the Chinese really, really lag in any kind of sports that require individualism, individual decision making, so on and so forth. They're really good at the sports that require rote memorization,
I
so on and so
actually.
forth. And also the other thing is that if we're the great individualist society, if we want to promote those Western values, we do need a society to do it. Okay.
Yes.
But how do you do it? It's generally through economics. Okay. Romans succeeded in being the Roman Empire more through economics than through conquest, and infrastructure than through conquest. Okay. Well, we are still by a hair the largest economy in the world, behind Europe as a whole.
Okay.
But once we lose that position of being like the largest individual economy, our influence is gone. And who is nipping at our heels? China. So much so that they're saying, you're no longer negotiating from a position of strength. And it's not just them. There's other Southeastern Asian leaders that are doing this. I mean, 2 years ago, North Korea called Biden a fool of low IQ.
Wow.
They ain't lying. They ain't lying.
They ain't lying.
They ain't lying.
You could never even get away with that. With previous presidents, and now these people are dropping these bombs. Putin is literally like saying, I challenge you to a live debate.
I call you out.
Come on.
I mean, how bad is
would they ever say that to Trump, though?
No.
Right.
They would have
But let's
never
see.
said
Are they going to respond and take the challenge?
No.
Of
They're
course.
going to take that L. You know what I'm saying? What's that saying? It better be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Exactly.
So he's just going to take that L.
Dude, that was a solid Lao Tzu quote right there, Tom.
Yeah, I was like facts on that one. I was like, wow.
Thank you.
You know what
I'll take a bow.
Right. That was he's not just for looks, folks. You know? So while we're talking about the economics of this whole thing, like I really want to dive into this. You were talking about this earlier in the show. How apparently we had dumped 86 million into this thing. I'm going to have to find an article on this.
86 million migrants.
Yeah, there's 86 million being poured into these hotels for these illegal immigrants. Now, I'm going to call it what it is.
Not migrants.
No, they're not migrants. They're not undocumented workers. They're not undocumented immigrants. They are illegal aliens, okay? That's what they are by definition. They don't have the proper papers or documentation to be in a foreign a country, so they are illegal aliens. But, the Biden administration is putting 86 million into these hotels to house these illegal
So let me get this straight. Hold on, before we do this. So I just want to get this straight. So we're going to give 86 million to illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, we have troops sleeping on the floor in basements. Meanwhile, we have businesses being shut down, never coming back, and vets that serve their country in mental institutions, getting seek help, AAA. I mean,
they're living on the streets. They're not even getting hotels.
You got it.
Yeah, and them living on the streets. So we have all this going on, right? We have all that going on.
Speak on it.
And because of the rhetoric that Biden and the rest of the Democrats with open borders and now the rhinos on the Republican side are now caving in on this issue, because of this rhetoric of open borders and stopping the wall, now the world is like, we have an opportunity these next 4 years that a president will let us get into the country.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then when you have a flood of people coming across the border to points where reportedly there's gunshots going on for a firefight going on for almost an hour. I mean, if you really think about a firefight, you can unload a clip.
You know what?
You can unload a clip like within seconds. So imagine like how long this is going on. Then boom, now we get an amnesty bill. They're trying to push for an amnesty bill in which to put money into this.
This is crazy.
Let me just interject here. While you said, hey, while we got vets that are suffering, while we got X, Y, or Z Americans that are suffering, here's a graph for you. This is the average wealth of the average black community. I mean, let's talk about this on a show called You Ain't Black.
Let's go.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, we're giving 86 million. How many African American families that were born on U.S. soil to 10th generation Americans?
Come on now.
That could be our reparations.
Helped build this country.
Reparations.
You want to talk reparations, bro? Like, let's talk this briefly.
Yeah.
With all of the bailout money that went to foreign countries in the supposed American COVID relief bill, there is enough for 45. I almost cry hearing this number. There's enough for $45,000 per American. When you look at this graph and you look at the average white versus all households, they probably have it divided up into Asian, into, Hispanic, all of the crap. But when you put all of this together, who's sitting on bottom? And they're the most American amongst us. I mean, my family on one side came here in the 40s. There's black families that have been here from the 1700s.
Yes,
literally.
Yes.
Some of the oldest Americans. You want to talk America first? Your average black American is more American than half of any other pretty much ethnic group, unless you are actually
and how about on top of that,
related to the Mayflower.
On top of that, did the science and the COVID just go away? I mean, are these 86 million are they even
being tested?
Oh,
I bet you
not. Of course not.
Are they going to be guaranteed to quarantine?
And I guarantee they're not wearing a mask, but they're going to enforce us wearing masks in our cities and counties and states. And you know what? He said this, and I'm talking about the troops. I'm talking about vets. And on the show You Ain't Black, it takes the white guy to explain that the money could have went to Black America.
You were talking like the white conservative on Fox News.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Here he is. Put it into perspective a little bit.
What about my brothers?
Wow.
Oh, man.
But actually, to be honest with you, that actually shows, that right there actually, to me, shows the true nature of true diversity that you get in the conservative community that you don't get in the white nor'eastern liberal Democrat community.
You got it.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's really interesting that the dude on the left that you see right now is the biggest Second Amendment advocate. Meanwhile, like, I'm the guy pulling up the stats here
on Black America.
Black America.
And I'm like, get more ammunition.
You know?
More ammunition.
More ammunition. You got 2K rounds, bump it up to 3.
But when I really look at this, it really makes me upset because we have a feckless president, President Biden, when it comes to this border security. We all understood going in this, we understood that he was going to be soft on border security. And now he's sitting here acting like that, really soft parent that tells little Johnny, no, don't come on. No, you can't have that piece of candy. Okay, I guess you can have it. Same thing with these when it comes to illegals. No, you can't come over here. No, okay, I guess you can come over here, and we'll set you up in hotels and pay $86 million. That could be going to the American people. Now, but instead, we're going to go ahead and fund that for you.
I also want to remind people about this too, is that we're talking about COVID relief money. We're talking about $86 million towards illegal immigrants. And, we're talking about where the money could be going and all that stuff. But you got to remind ourselves, what happened to our conversations about inflation?
Let's go.
I mean, at this point, we're throwing money.
Dude, 40% of the bills in circulation right now were printed in the past 12 months. Let me fact check that in real time. 40%. But we're looking at some absurd money. Yeah, it's like modern monetary theory is literally taking over. And the government's thinking we don't have to raise taxes or pass bills that people have to vote on anymore. Because we can just print the money to pay for the gas.
Increase the value of the dollar in comparison to the pound, to the euro, to everything. People don't understand that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand the economics of what it is to just print money.
Exactly.
Oh, just give them this money. Don't just give them that. Oh, just pass this. Just pass that. No. There's going to be an account. It's going to take account when it comes to us economically. Yep. And what Cardon just said. If we lose our status economically, well.
Okay, so this is according
you can look
to
at it. China owns a lot of our debt. Last time I checked, the majority of it. So at this point, it's getting out of hand when it comes to the spending, right? But of course, when an emergency happens, like what happens, okay, cool. But I mean, giving $86 million to illegal immigrants is not an
look,
emergency.
this is from the street.
Waste of money.
This is from the street right here.
Here you go.
There's different stats here because they're all gleaning different pieces of data, but all of them are bad. This article from the street says 23.6 of all U.S. dollars were created in the past year. If you look at some of these other articles right here, they're claiming almost a fifth. There's some people here on Reddit who have said 40% and 35% if you take into account other investment qualifiers and so on and so forth. But we're talking about anywhere between a fifth to 40% of U.S. dollars right now are actually from
the
this
last
year
of all the bills in circulation.
Which makes you wonder how much are all the other bills worth now?
Wow. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Wow.
This is where we're at.
So I just had to remind people, when we're talking about these numbers, always remember we had a very long conversation when Obama spent more money than every single president combined that actually did the numbers and pointed out, no, if you actually add up from George Bush all the way to, George Washington all the way to George Bush, and you look at Obama's term, that he spent more money than every single president combined from the beginning to the end. And we actually talked about inflation. We were talking about the bubble, and Trump did do a revisal, right? But then the whole shutdown kind of brought it back, right? Yeah. And then now we're sitting here spending $86 million on illegal immigrants.
Why are we spending this much money on illegal aliens coming? Because there's a surge at the border. Why is there a surge at the border? Because these illegals know that there's hope when it comes to the Biden administration.
Because the rhetoric.
These are great questions for Pelosi to answer. Biden won't answer them.
Yes, sir.
We know Biden won't answer them.
You ain't black.
And you ain't black.